Evening, everyone, and welcome to the Daily Spell. This is Reverend Mary Hall, and it's Tarot Thursday. My special guest tonight is Reverend Don Lewis, and we are here to talk about tarot and do many readings for you. Uh, we'd love to chat with you. Go ahead and post your comments in chat. If you have a question, we can do a reading for you. So, good evening, everyone, and welcome, Lord Don. How are you feeling tonight?
I'm good, thank you. How are you tonight?
I am doing well. Hi, Reverend Michael. Good to see you. Thank you for joining us.
As you see behind me, the dissolution of the library has begun, and
Yeah.
you can see um, the books going up on my Facebook page, and also um, on Edward's Facebook page, I believe.
Yes, that's Ed Hubbard's Facebook page. And hello to Diane and Renee. Thank you for joining us. And do we have a
Hello,
time
hello. Hmm?
frame yet on when the Infinite Tarot is going to be released again?
I would guess this fall.
Okay.
I mean, my health situation and now the need to move um, by the 1st of May has somewhat screwed up some of my timetables
Yeah.
from what
You
they
mean the
would have
first
been.
of June, right?
Hmm?
You mean you're moving by the 1st of June,
Yeah.
right?
Yes, the 1st of June. I beg your pardon.
Okay. Well, if anyone has a question, go ahead and post it in chat. I'll be happy to do a reading for you. I'm also going to mention that tomorrow night at 8 Central, 9 Eastern, I'll be premiering Everything Psychic with Gail Tracy Mull. She's been hosting her interviewing show with us for quite some time, and the format will be similar. We will be taking questions, but we are not limited to just tarot. Uh, we will be using several different forms of divination, including pendulums, numerology, and we'll be inviting people who practice other types of divination to join us from
Yes,
time to time on our show as well. So please join us tomorrow.
that will be very cool.
Yes, I'm looking forward to it. And if anyone has a question, go ahead and post it in chat. We could each pull one card and see what we get.
Mm,
And we got a question. Hi,
yes, we do.
Brian wants to know about the telethon next week. All righty. Do your stuff. You gonna send us those cookies you were posting in chat earlier? They were Oreos with glittery rainbow filling.
Oh my. Hi, Brian. Good to see you.
All righty.
Are you ready, or do you want me to go?
You can go first if you would like to. I'm going to ponder this for a second.
So, the Chariot fell out of the deck as I was shuffling, The Chariot is going forward, focusing on what you need to do, focusing on, we might say the bottom line, but staying focused, moving forward. So do not lose focus. And with it is the High Priestess, which says also listen to your spiritual guidance. Trust your spiritual guidance. And do not forget, do not get so caught up in moving forward in a physical way that you forget that you're also working in a spiritual sense. So keep both of these things around you. Make sure you listen to your guidance. Make sure you put it into practice and move forward. And it actually looks good to me. Both major arcana cards. Hello, Janet. Hope you had a nice birthday.
And the card I pulled is the King of Lamps. So this is about spirituality. Of course, we are working on a very spiritual mission here. And the king is meditating in the sun. We are looking at, the king is about fire and spirituality. So we've got to bring passion to this, is how I'm reading it.
Mm-hmm.
So bring in passion. Don't forget why we're doing it. Don't get caught. Keep going forward. It's got to be done with passion to make it successful. All righty. And hello, Janet. How are you tonight? Thank you for joining us. Glad your sleep was good.
And thank you for the question, Brian.
Does anybody else have a question for us?
Oh, very
right,
cool.
Janet, that is wonderful. We will look forward to seeing you at the Parliament then.
Yes, we will.
And the ticket. All I have left to do is figure out which hats I'm going to bring. If you heard a laugh in the background, that was my sister, who is used to traveling with me and my decisions about hats. All right, does anybody else have a question for us? Well, I've got a question for you. How would you say, or how do you feel about the difference between cartomancy and tarot?
I assume you're asking me.
Yes, Lord Don, I'm sorry.
Well, you could be asking our viewers.
Yes. I'll take comments too while we're waiting on questions, but.
Well, I would say first that inherently there really is no difference. I mean, they're both ways of reading cards.
Right.
The tarot is just specific and cartomancy refers to any card.
Right.
But having said that, I think that reading with playing cards is the most traditional form. You don't see so much anymore. The playing cards do appear to predate the tarot, but of course nobody can really know, and it's not by enough that one can be certain. And of course the minor arcana of the tarot are the same as playing cards, except that there's a fourth court card. Do I think one is better than the other? No. It's a matter of what fits the person. If you're reading with playing cards, you're going to have a lot less visual stimulation, and for some people that will be better. Others, the visual stimulation will be very important, and tarot offers that. Oracle cards offer that. But it's kind of like doing a reading for a person clairvoyantly. For me, the less I know going in, the better off I am. Not everyone will necessarily feel that way. People are different. I think for me, if I know absolutely nothing about the person when I start the reading, it's going to be a better reading. Now, at a certain point, I will ask them for questions, and then it's better that they have input. But at the beginning, I find very often Spirit just answers their questions before they have the chance to ask them. And people usually are pretty happy when that happens.
Yes. All right. Well, does anybody else have a question they'd like to post for us? We are here.
There are also some other rather traditional types of reading cards that are less common than tarot, but Lenormand cards, so-called Gypsy Witch cards, are actually, they're not as old as tarot, but they go back a way. And we have a question.
Will my health get better? All right, Renee, just a moment. Learn my lesson. Always shuffle over the table. Okay.
Do you want to go first, or shall I go
I
first?
can go first. So first of all, I've got the universe, which, well, it appears dark, and I'm not sure if it's coming through over it's actually a starscape. So you are looking into the universe. And this card is talking about endless possibilities. And then we have the future. And we don't know if this is Daedalus or Icarus. So the answer here has to be, it's up to you on how you're steering your course. If you get too close to the sun, the wax on your wings will melt and you'll fall into the sea and drowned. And then finally, I have the 10 of Pentacles, which calls for a very favorable outcome in the material world. So I'm going to say that, yes, your health will get better provided you are making some good decisions along the way.
And the first card I drew is Magic. And the Magic card says that you must be careful what you wish for, you will get it. Where you put your focus, you will create. So focus on better health, and it will have a huge impact. Try not to worry, because sometimes when we worry, we draw to us that which we worry about. Second card is the Six of Swords. The Six of Swords is a journey, and it's saying, that the answer to this question is a process, not an act. So whatever needs to happen for your health to get better, I'm inclined to say it will happen, but things have to be done. It may be that certain changes have to be made and followed through with. But it's basically saying this is not an overnight answer, but it is moving forward. And it's not, it's certainly not bad, but again, it's a journey. And the final card for me is the Three of Swords. And the Three of Swords, I usually read this as changes in relationships. In this case, because it's a health question, I would say this might be changes to situations or behaviors that will create a better health situation. It's like, for example, I now am following a mostly salt-free diet because of the heart failure I experienced. I know that I must maintain that diet because salt is one of the things that could trigger that to happen again. So I must change that relationship to my diet. This might be something like that. That would be my thought. So not a change in a relationship with a person necessarily, unless you're thinking of changing doctor, in which case that could be what's indicated. But I think more changing certain behaviors. But I would say that the outcome looks pretty good. Let me draw a couple more for you. Because, you know. And one more. Because. So we have the Nine of Wands. And the Nine of Wands is feeling held back by the situation. And being in a kind of a period of waiting for things to improve, followed by the Seven of Wands, which is an uphill battle. And it means that, yes, you absolutely can do everything you need to do. You just have to stay focused on it and actually make the changes you need to make, and they will have their effect. And finally, the Two of Wands, which is possibilities, new beginnings, a good outcome. And it's interesting to me that I've drawn 3 wand cards in a row from totally different parts of this deck, following a major arcana and 2 swords. I'm going to draw one more because I've drawn the Ace of Cups. And I would take that to say that, yes, it's going to improve, and in the long run, you are going to be quite happy with the future of it. But again, you have to have that focus, you have to make those changes, and if you do that, it will take you to a good place.
And we do have a question from Janet.
Mm-hmm.
And that is, should she keep her Jeep or trade it in?
Thank you, Renee.
You are welcome, Renee.
You want me to go first, or do you want to go first?
You can go first this time.
Okay, so I'm going to draw these a little differently. So for keeping the Jeep, let us draw a card. And I have drawn the Magos, the Magician, which is a very positive card. And for trading it in, the Seven of Cups, which is not necessarily a bad situation, but not being happy with it. So I would say you should keep it. Um, and I don't know that there need to be any more cards drawn because that's pretty clear.
So I was going to draw 3 cards on each. So for keeping the G, I've got the Queen of Lamps, which is spirituality and water. I've got the Queen of Swords. Yes, that's me, which is about creating what you want in your life and overcoming obstacles. And I've got the man. So I'm going to go with keeping the G. Looks very positive to me, and I believe it represents a lot of change that you've created for yourself. And then as far as trading it, we've got the Princess of Swords, which is going to indicate something static about trading it. Something's going to freeze. We've got the Queen of Cups, so it's going to be really emotional. And finally, we got the Five of Swords, which is chaos.
Yeah, keep the Jeep.
Keep the Jeep.
You will not be you'll not be happy if you trade it.
At least not in the near future.
Yeah, not at this time.
We didn't set a time frame on it.
No.
And
Yeah, I don't think either of us is saying that 10 years from now you should necessarily still keep it, but as you're looking at it right now, don't do it.
Yeah.
At a later time, it might be a different answer.
So, and Michael had asked previously what you think of oracle cards, and I'll answer first. I think oracle cards are an awesome resource. I have a friend who does incredibly insightful with readings with oracle cards, and I have never been able to get them to work for me. I work with tarot. I've got a deck of Lenormand cards gifted to me by their creator, Papa G. Aroma Gregory, or Aroma G's, his company, is one of our Pagan World sponsors. He created his own deck. I can't. They don't talk to me. I read tarot. And I'm sure Lord Don has a different answer.
Yeah, to me, it would depend on which the deck was. I've read with oracle cards perfectly well. I regard them really as being all the same thing, different kinds of cartomancy. And it would be a question to me of, does this speak to me or not? I think they work perfectly fine. I'm put in mind of Eaton Gray, who famously wrote a series of books on tarot in the 60s that did a lot to spur the revival of interest in tarot in the United States. And one of her last appearances was at the International Tarot Society in Chicago. And she was asked what she thought of the proliferation of different sorts of tarot decks. Not quite the same question, but similar. And she felt that things had been better when there were only 1 or 2 available, because then the ideas were universal. She was a great writer. I do not agree at all. But she had also spent her lifetime in a world where there were only a few choices. And, it's like those people who lived without electricity and saw no need to get it just because it was the new thing. Or those people who had outhouses and didn't see the need for indoor plumbing because they had never had it before. Perfectly legitimate choice. I like electricity. I like my computer. I like AI. I like where we're going. And I see this as this part and parcel of the same thing. Many different proliferations, I think, only makes more opportunities for people, even though not everyone is for everyone. And that's fine too. And also, you know, sometimes something isn't for you right now, and later that could turn around completely. Um, you never know.
And Michael says, now that Earth Day is over, I'm trying to figure out what I should do. Have many plans of different events. Any suggestions? So you're asking specifically what kind of events you should be doing with your temple now that Earth Day was a success, right, Michael?
That certainly seems to be the case.
All righty. Well, I've got an interesting assortment of cards here. So I'm starting out with the Empress, which is a fortunate card. It's also a rather sensual card. And I would also suggest you need to look for events around the goddess, if that's available to you. Next, I have the Hanged Man, and this is Odin. And since you're asking specifically about events, I'm wondering if there is anything near you that has maybe a heathen focus that you could get a booth at. And then we have the Six of Cups, and this is talking about relationships. And so I'm going to suggest you work your networks. I know you're looking for events reasonably close to you, so I would just start talking to people around you and say you enjoyed having a booth at Earth Day and you're looking for similar events you could get a booth at. Have they heard of anything? And see what pops up.
What I would say first is that I don't generally find this the kind of question that tarot finds easy to answer. I think it's usually better to be a little more focused to ask, would this event be good or that event be good, etc. But since we've not done that, I've drawn 3 cards, and the first one is the Eight of Cups. And the Eight of Cups is don't imagine problems where they don't exist. You may find as you go forward that this is a thing with you. And so if you perceive a problem, make sure it's a real one, because chances are it's not. The other thing I might say, you'll notice there are phantoms in the picture, which does make me wonder if this might be pointing towards Samhain, and saying maybe consider a Samhain event. But I think you're looking for things closer. So I would give both of those meanings. Second card is the Emperor. The Emperor, interesting since you had the Empress. But the Emperor to me represents cycles. It can be taken in different ways. One of the ways I take it is that what goes up must come down, what comes down may go up again. Understand the only constant in the universe is change, but in this question, the Emperor is the Lord of the Wheel of the Year, the cycles of the year. So look at the sabbats in terms of what you're looking for events. I think you may find answers connected to that. Last card is Thaumagus, who has returned to us. And the Magus says, pick what you want. Pick what you want, make it work. You can make it work, and you really can make work whatever you choose. So that would be my advice. Now, Eddie Jr. in the chat room says, if you'll pardon my remarking on it, very good take on the Emperor. Thank you. It is a different take than what some other readers might have, partly based on the deck that I'm using. In the Tarot of Hecate, we have extra cards that are not necessarily in a conventional deck, which changes the numerology of some of these cards. So where the Emperor is normally the number 4, in the Tarot of Hecate, he's number 5. And to me, that is more consonant with my Corellian beliefs about goddess and god. So I see him as cycles. And if you think of the Emperor in terms of structures and authorities, well, what's more structural than the cycles of the universe? So that's how I look at that. And Reverend Michael says that helps a lot. I'm glad to hear that. Thank you, Reverend Mike.
Does. All right. Does anybody else have a question for us tonight?
So I'm just beginning to see the very first signs of wear on these cards after all the time I've been using them. So I'm actually pretty impressed with that.
It is a very, very good deck. I am going to have to get something to keep them in besides the box.
And Lavola remarks on that they really like the insight into the Emperor. Thank you. I appreciate that.
I like that better than the typical kind of patriarchal view of the Emperor.
Well, the Emperor and the Devil card.
I'm at war with the patriarchy, which, if you watch my show, Witch Rising, Sunday nights.
Well, the Emperor and the Devil card are the two most widely differently interpreted cards in the deck, mostly depending on the religion or philosophy of the reader. But the Emperor traditionally had to do with structure, and it was considered a positive card. But then in the 20th century, for many people, it became a card of limitation, oppression, so forth. And I think that we're seeing it stabilize into yet a different interpretation as we go forward. Same with the Devil card, which to me, when I draw the Devil card, in fact, in the Tarot of Hecate, it's called the Veil, and that's how I see it. It's the state of involution in the physical world that causes us not to see higher spiritual realities. It obscures our vision. But that's very different from how many other people are going to read it. So for all those people who come to my Monday night chat room, the next one will be Monday, May 1st. And it will be taking place in my Patreon. If you watch my Facebook page, you will see the link for it. It is available to the lowest tier of Patreon supporters because I wanted to keep it accessible to everyone. But it is part of the shifts that I am making in my life, but it also will guarantee freedom from troll attacks.
Yay!
And we had been beginning to have that. So I'm flattered that the trolls considered us a good target, but I'll be just as happy not to have to deal with.
I would just as soon we were not booting trolls every Monday night.
Yeah. Even though a couple of them were entertaining, the cute little 80-year-old couple was cool. Although I don't think I think that was a filter. I don't think they were actually.
I'm pretty sure it was a filter.
I don't think most 80-year-old couples are trolling chat rooms.
And Andy says he looks at the Ten of Air to see how it's portrayed to get a better understanding of a tarot deck. Would you like to share a little bit more about that with us, Eddie? That's really interesting.
That is interesting. I wonder if I can find that one, since we're talking about it without taking forever to. So this is one of those things that the wand and the sword generally represent air and fire, but not necessarily in the same way to everyone. In some backgrounds, the wand is air, in others, the sword is air, and the tarot is generally the sword. And this is the Tarot of Hecate's 10 of Swords, and it's rather drastic, although the meaning isn't as drastic as the picture. But yeah, there we go. We have lost our head. And Eddie remarks that there's great difference. Some are awful and some are positive. And that's exactly so. And in the Tarot of Hecate, the picture is awful, but the meaning is not necessarily. You know, I had Lady Bitterwind advising me as I created this tarot, and you know, she thought I was a bit of a Pollyanna to start with, so I had to include some images for
her. This one always makes me think of the story of John the Baptist's head.
Yes.
Renee says she is scared of the Ten of Swords. No card is to be afraid of, Renee. They convey messages, and, you know, positive things come into our lives, not so positive things come into our lives. And sometimes things that I thought were absolutely awful when I was going through them actually wound up providing great opportunities on the other side. And Laveau wants to know what you like about the Tarot of Hecate deck.
Well, since I designed it, I might not be the best person to ask. Mary, what do you like about it?
One thing I was going to mention before the question came up is I do like the fact that we have a princess in each suit rather than a page. I like the fact that there are 2 female and 2 male court cards rather than 3 male and 1 female. And Renee, sometimes endings have to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And we've got a question from Diane. Is her new job going to work out the way
I'm sorry, I saw Eddie Jr.'s comment.
And Eddie says a very Leo response, and Lavola didn't know you designed it.
Ah, yes, indeed.
I also like the suit of lamps, which it deals exclusively with spiritual matters. And well, it took me a while to learn to deal with them. I like the additional cards in the major arcana.
One of the things that I like about it, even speaking as the designer, is that it's very inclusive. It's very diverse. And at the time it was designed, that was not normal for tarots. They were all still lily white.
They were all lily white. And yes, that is something I also appreciate about this deck, is it's very inclusive.
Do you want to go first, or shall I?
If you're ready, go ahead. I'm still pulling.
So, I was just shuffling these cards that whole time. First card is the Nine of Wands. And in terms of the new job, be patient. One of the meanings of this cards is patience. You can see the character in the card is a woman in a prison cell, dreaming of her freedom. The next card, the Ten of Wands, shows that she does get it, but at this time, all she can really do is wait for things to develop. So it's saying, be patient, let things develop. Second card, the Five of Lamps. And the Five of Lamps says that you're looking for something or about to look for something, which could probably only really be found within, but you may be thinking of it as more external. So what I would say is, if you find that you feel that something is not working out as you desire or not meeting your expectations, first look inside yourself, because it may not be the external thing that's actually the problem. It may be a need to adjust attitudes or to change decisions and directions. Third card, Queen of Lamps. And the Queen of Lamps is magic. The Queen of Lamps is witchcraft, as opposed to what some people would call high magic or ceremonial magic. The Queen of Lamps is using your magic in your everyday life. So what she is saying here is that to make this job what you want it to be, don't be afraid to use some magic. Use it in good and proper ways, but don't be afraid to use it. Things like cleansing the energy, blessing your space, making sure that you are in an energetically good situation when you go in. Remember how much you control of all of this through metaphysical abilities, and it will certainly be good for the situation. Now I'm going to draw another card because, I do.
Mm-hmm.
I've drawn the Three of Cups. Three of Cups is celebration among friends. So this looks very positive to me. And then I'm going to draw another one. Prince of Wands, which is a tendency for the energy not to be sufficiently focused. It's saying bring a little more focus to the situation. And finally, the Tower. The Tower says that you're in a process of breaking free from restraints and moving into a new phase in your life related to this job. But going from the others, you're still in process. It's I think I've used the phrase earlier in the evening, it's a journey, but the outcome looks good. The outcome involves celebration, it involves freedom, and it says that as you come to that good place, make sure you keep your focus and don't get lost in the enjoyment of those good things. Make sure you're using your magic where you need it, be patient, and make sure you also pay attention to your own inner voice, to your inner self. And I think you will find that the situation does very well by.
Okay, so I'm starting off with the Two of Wands. So here you are considering possibilities in a relatively new situation. Then I have the Ace of Cups. So you've got a lot of emotional energy invested into the situation. And this is usually a favorable card. And then I've got the Four of Lamps. So this is also saying, because this is talking about someone who is using her magic to aid her community. So I'm going to say that you've got a lot of energy in the situation, and you need to focus your energy and your magic on making the job be what you want it to be. Which is just what he said.
Very cool.
So I hope that helps, Diane. fun. And then we've got a question from Lavola. Lavola has a hair salon that's been open for 20 years and running into challenges after the COVID lockdown. Wants to know, so doing new things to make it successful, and wants to know if there's anything they need to know on the path with the business. We have a jumper.
You want me to start?
You may.
Our first question is this, or our first card is the sun. The sun is success, happiness, good things. Our second card is strength, which means just what it sounds like. And our third card is the Ace of Cups, which is another card of happiness. So what I would say is that if there's anything you need to know, it's that as long as you stand strong, this looks like, to me, like it's going to be a good, positive, successful situation. Strength in the middle means that you must stay strong, you must be patient, you must use your own strength, but it's sandwiched between two of the most positive cards you could ask for. So because I can't leave well enough alone, however, we're going to draw some more. I've drawn the Five of Swords. And the Five of Swords, I would take to mean that at this moment, or the immediate future, you might kind of feel like the house is on fire. But if you stay patient, as I was saying, if you rely on your strength, in fact, everything is going to be fine. We've drawn the Eight of Swords and the Hanged Man at the same time, which actually have a lot in common. They both, again, have to do with a period of time before things move. In the case of the Eight of Swords in particular, it's feeling held back by the situation. The Hanged Man obviously is stuck where he is. Lavola says it does feel like a house fire. What I would say from those first cards is that I would look for that to be a temporary situation, but let's draw three more because I can't help myself. So we've drawn the Tower, the Prince of Wands, and the Nine of Lamps. And the Tower,
before.
Yeah. The Tower is freedom, change. To me, it also is being in touch with your true self versus outside forces. But it does say, there are changes happening all over. Stay focused. Kind of the same thing I was saying about strength. And then the Nine of Lamps. The Nine of Lamps, to borrow a phrase from, I think it was called the Tarot of Aradia, although they may have changed the name later, but it's the archetypal New Age witch or shaman, quote unquote, which means, again, you have the ability to do what you need to do metaphysically and physically. Stay focused and use it. And the outcome should be good. I'm going to draw one more card for outcome because they're just too attractive. I can't keep my hands off of them. And I've drawn the Three of Coins. The Three of Coins is mastery of craft. So you're going to learn a lot as you go through this process. But as long as you rely on your own strength, keep your focus, and use the skills you have, I think it will take you to a good place. It certainly, this is a good card. It's a card of, again, really understanding what you're doing. So I think you'll come out of it stronger, but I think you'll be happy with the outcome. And there you go.
All right, so my first card is the Seven of Pentacles. And this is a young man who's had reverses in his career and is contemplating what he has to do. Then we get the Nine of Cups, which is a very fortunate card. And then I have Judgment, which is talking about successfully completing a project that you have been devoting a lot of time and energy to. Now, I suppose I could draw a few more cards, but I really think that tells the whole story there, Lavola. You have been you put a whole lot of thought into what you needed to do to turn your business around. You've got a plan, you are working on it, and you will get success, even if you don't see it immediately right now.
Yes, indeed.
And you are welcome.
Absolutely.
And we probably got time for about one more question, if anybody's got one.
Thank you, Lavola.
I
Lavola
am
says, so spot on. And that
ill.
they feel very much encouraged.
I'm glad we could help you, Lavola.
Absolutely.
Alrighty. Well, since we're not getting in any more questions, would you like to close us out with a prayer, Lord Don?
Yes, I would. But first, I'd like to say it's been a lovely evening. Thank you for having me on. And thank you, everyone in the chat room.
I'm
And
always glad when you can join me.
and we draw the same cards and complimentary cards. It's always very interesting. And you'll notice behind me, I mentioned this at the start of the hour, but you'll see that my bookshelves are starting to become vacant because much of my library is going up for sale, as well as statuary, altarpieces, and jewelry. So please watch my Facebook page, watch Sir Edward's Facebook page, and probably some other places. And I hope that that some of you will be kind enough to support me as I gather money for my imminent move. And you can also get some great values because my library has had some very good books in it. Um, and if you're so interested, you can have a little piece of me. And now Lavola asks, is the Tarot of Hecate available? It's not at this time. We expect it later this year. We have to have it reprinted. And as I was saying earlier, my situation with my health and having to move so quickly after has delayed our timetable a bit, but probably in early fall. We are very much aware that people are anxious to get it. So with that, let us have our prayer. Divine Mother Goddess, Divine Father God, beloved ancestors, we ask you to be with us and to guide us as we go forward. Even as the tarot cards help us to judge our path and make good decisions, we ask that you help us to judge our path and make good decisions. Guide us and walk with us as we go forward. We know you are always with us, but help us to be aware of your presence and to allow your guidance. Beloved Mother Goddess, beloved Father God, beloved ancestors, with great love and with respect, we thank you. May the blessing be upon you now and always, and may the blessing be upon you now and always. And we'll see you next time.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining us on the Daily Spell for Tarot Thursday. And blessed be everyone.